We are running slightly behind schedule, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce Jasen from Stumpcraft. So Jasen is the founder and lead puzzle designer at Stumpcraft. He is passionately committed to using Stumpcraft as a catalyst for generosity and self-discovery. And I can tell you, he is absolutely doing that. He's always sending out traveling puzzles that go across the US and Canada, which is amazing. And his aim is to expose puzzle enthusiasts to more Canadian art, to provide great moments of engaging, contemplative, low-tech activity, and to create artifacts of social connection between family and friends. So Jasen?
All right, I'm just going to test these things out. It's been a while since I've given a presentation, so let's see how this works here. All right, good, one. Excellent. All right. I'm probably not going to reveal anything new to you. I'm going to talk about how I design puzzles, how I solve puzzles, and I think these practices apply broadly to life as well, the puzzle of life. I'm a big lover of metaphors, of meanings, and acronyms. So I'm going to use all those, roll those into this little chat. I tend to use metaphors quite a bit when I'm speaking about puzzles, about life, and so I'm going to use two different metaphors. Both of them are lenses by which you can approach life, approach puzzle design. And those two lenses today will be the lens of care and the lens of RAM. So for care, the acronym stands for curiosity, agency, resiliency, and empathy. And the RAMP metaphor and acronym is relatedness, adaptability, mastery, and purpose. These ideas came to me as I was listening to a new book called Look Again. I highly recommend the book. For those of you who are puzzle enthusiasts, I think you'll recognize a lot of these themes come up. And so as I'm going through this little chat here, I'm inviting you to consider adding elements of care to your life. And then also invite you to think about other ways of looking at life, looking at puzzles, and thinking of ways of ramping up your mindset positively. And I think puzzles are one of those things that really can step you forward in that positive mindset. I will briefly do the boring stuff, and then we'll get into the interesting stuff. So I'll give you a little bit of background on me and puzzles very quickly. Started in 2016. I had a previous career in engineering, consulting, and 80 hours turned to 60, turned to 40, turned to 5. And I figured that was a message from the universe indicating that I should do something else. I was a big lover of puzzles. I was importing puzzles from Liberty to start off with, and then Artifact. Love those. Importing things into Canada tends to be a little bit expensive. Our Canadian dollar isn't quite as valuable as yours is. And importing things across the border with shipping and exchange rate and brokerage fees tends to double the cost of puzzles bringing them across the border. So that became old fast, and my puzzle collecting came to a bit of an end. But I still loved puzzles. And so when my career took a nosedive, I thought, well, maybe I can do that for the Canadian audience. There's not a whole lot of Canadian art being represented in puzzles these days, maybe more so now. And so I wanted to bring more Canadian art into Canadian living rooms and maybe spread that a little bit more widely across the world. So that's what I focus on. I really focus on bringing and working with Canadian artists. I've met, I think, every single one of the artists that I work with. We tend to have a fairly warm rapport and relationship. And I try to get to know the artists and embed that knowledge into the puzzle design. When I started off with the puzzle design, I wanted to start from scratch, and I continue to do that. Very much like Leo yesterday mentioned, it is very much a blank canvas. I try not to reuse my pieces, and so I'm constantly developing my skills, I guess, as a puzzle designer by starting from scratch every time. So here's one of the examples from a couple of years ago. I designed this puzzle called Badlands to the Bone. Commissioned this piece of art. I'm only showing the whimsies in this case, but we've got a great museum called the Royal Tyrrell Museum in Drumheller in Alberta. If you've ever been to Alberta, I highly recommend visiting this museum. It's probably my favorite museum that I've visited, although the Strong Museum is up there as well. I'll have to make another visit to really figure out which one is my favorite. Eventually. There we go. All right, so into the fun stuff. So the first lens is the lens of care. This is a riff on another mnemonic by a game designer called Jasen Robillard. He's designed a number of fantastic games and still continues to this day. Got this off of his Substack, and so I highly recommend visiting his Substack. The wrinkle that I've added is I've replaced his O with the A. His O is for obsessiveness. I kind of lump that into curiosity. So when I get curious about something, I dive deep into it. So I kind of lump obsessiveness into curiosity. So for care, the 4 words again are curiosity, agency, resiliency, and empathy. So we'll start with curiosity. I describe curiosity as the pull of attraction. So ideally, when you're dealing with life or a puzzle, you want to engage with something that is drawing you in. And so, let's see.
Battery might be dying.
Go.
Go back.
There we go. So what, for you, is attractive? What draws you in? I'm going to try and add a question to each of these slides as a way of drawing you into the presentation. And I've also added a reference image from one of my puzzles on the left-hand side. The puzzle on the left there is not easily phased. Since about a year and a half ago, I've been co-designing puzzles. And so this is a puzzle that was largely created by my co-designer, Siri Olsen. And so we tend to riff off each other, provide each other ideas. And in this particular puzzle, we've got these 3 lovely dancing ladies, kind of paper doll style puzzle pieces where you can interchange the dresses that they wear. There's 3 ladies, they each have 3 outfits, perfect for any occasion. In addition, we tend to throw in a lot of secret puzzles within the puzzle, so it's something I like to do. In the past, I haven't always revealed what the secret puzzles were. I'm doing that more and more so now. In this case, we've got a secret cheese board that's hidden among the pieces made up of in the puzzle. So you see some of those elements in here. We've got a lovely block of Swiss cheese. We've got a baguette. We've got some pickles. We've got some olives. And we've got some delicious wine. We've got 3 bottles of wine as well in there. And then, in addition, I try to create a blog post for every one of the puzzles to dig deeper into what the puzzle is about, and those are extensively hyperlinked with additional resources, additional things that might be of interest to the individual puzzler. So trying to create multiple hooks, or if you want, interlocks that draw people into the puzzle as well. There we go. Curiosity is what draws you in. Agency is what allows you to push into your environment. So there's a pull into the puzzle and then a push out. I see puzzles as a way of embodying the fact that you have the ability to have an impact in the world. So as you're opening up the box, you then will be invited to dump the pieces out. That's an action that only you can take. After you dump the pieces, I would recommend flipping the pieces to the beautiful art side. That's an action only you can take. I would then encourage you to sort the pieces by color or shape. Again, only an action that you can take. And then eventually, if you just sit with the puzzle long enough, something beautiful will happen. You will find a piece that fits another piece. And you just do that repeatedly over and over and over again. And eventually you do come up with a beautiful end result. As an example here, I've got a few of the whimsies, the figurals, from a puzzle called Alice Feast. In this case, in the puzzle, I'll reveal the secret for this one. We've got these gears here shown in the middle. These gears are actually broken apart in the puzzle. They don't appear in the puzzle intact. And so in order to make the gears work, you have to fix the gear. In addition, we've got the white rabbit here, who's always late, and if you attach the rabbit foot to the middle, and he is very much locked into his pocket watch, and if you put the pocket watch into the other nook here, the white rabbit will run around the gear, given he's always late. All right, resiliency, the R of care. When we're playing with puzzles, we're essentially choosing to interact with a challenge. And that kind of relates to my own views on Stoic philosophy as a good way of approaching life. And the obstacle is the way. And so for anyone who's started a business, you've essentially chosen a massive obstacle in your life. And welcome to the adventure of entrepreneurship. You don't have to start with that level 5 challenge. You can always start with a level 1 challenge or maybe a small mini puzzle. Highly recommend you start at a lower level and ramp yourself up to those higher challenges. And so we try to offer puzzles at various scales, both in terms of piece count as well as the level of challenge. We mark those on our boxes in the number of trees that are colored in on our label. And that refers to the level of growth you'll experience by accepting the challenge in your way. So the question here is, what challenge do you choose to put in front of you in your life? And how do you stretch your own limits? So if you're comfortable with that level 3 challenge, do you occasionally engage with the level 4 challenge? Or do you revisit a level 3 challenge, but approach it from a different perspective? What I encourage people to do is, with our puzzles, I think they're puzzles that you can do over and over again. We tend to consume puzzles rather than digest them and spend time with them. So if you've done a wooden puzzle before, maybe you tend to do it the easy way first, so you'll do the easy colors, or we were working on an elms puzzle yesterday, and we grabbed all the reds. There were very few red pieces, and we did those. If you want to revisit a puzzle, maybe you start with the hard section first and finish off with the easy. And it creates a whole different experience. Or you might start from the bottom and deliberately work yourself to the top. All right, and the final letter of the CARE lens is empathy. Each puzzle that we work with features art created by an artist. I'm endeavoring to never use AI art. I want to work with people. And likewise, we're designing entirely by hand. All of our whimsy pieces are drawn by hand in a way that is very reminiscent of the hand-cut puzzles. I have not attempted to hand-cut a puzzle. I think I'm a bit too much of a perfectionist, and I would want to scrap every piece that I start with. And so the drawing and the redrawing and the shaping, the sculpting of pieces is a little bit more my style. But I am trying to create pieces that evoke that same style of piece that you would experience in a hand-cut puzzle. And finally, every puzzle that we design can only be put together again with the hand of with human touch and human engagement. And so puzzles are an artifact of connection. They embody connection. And I try to invite you to think about what you might have in common with the artist, what you might have in common with me, what you might have in common with all of those who've solved that particular puzzle. And I think that that's perhaps a bit of a romantic thought, but I like thinking about that. All right. Next up, the ramp. There we go. All right. Again, I'm a big Substack reader now. I like the slightly longer form online communication styles. Twitter was never a thing for me. I'm kind of getting fed up with social media, but Substack for me is a little bit more engaging, a little bit deeper. And so this ramp mindset comes from two different Substack blogs. One is, I can always share these links with you later if you're interested. And so the 4 words in the acronym are relatedness, adaptability, mastery, and purpose. On the left here, we've got a puzzle called, Shining Streets. And this one's themed around school and kids at play. And so we've got lots of elements that you would see in a school setting. We've got the pedestrian crossings, and the hidden puzzle in here is a globe. The Earth is a single spot in the puzzle, but then the globe holder is hidden in another section of the puzzle. All right, this is a big thing for me, relatedness, parts within the whole. You may have seen me walking around with my t-shirts over the course of the weekend. And so I think a lot of the times in our current culture, we tend to focus too much on the parts and not enough on the whole. And that's another thing that I think puzzles really force you to think about the whole, the grand picture, rather than the little elements within. This particular puzzle that's shown on the left, left, is birds and bees. This reminded me a little bit of Anne's talk yesterday about the puzzle game. Being new to puzzle design, I don't know what the history of puzzles are, and so it's fun seeing some of these things that have been invented in the past reemerge in my work. And so this particular puzzle is a 4-panel puzzle. When I engage with the public who are not very knowledgeable about wooden puzzles, it's typically people who are fond of cardboard, and they love starting with the outside edge. And I make that particularly difficult in my puzzles. I split the corners. I've got lots of edges that don't look like edges, fine tip points. I forget what those are called. In this particular case, with the 4 panels, I decided to give people what they wanted, and so there's a lot of edge, lots of straight lines within the middle of the puzzle. I also have these whimsies that are made up of multiple pieces, which Sarah has called whim-whams. So I refer to them as whim-whams. And if I've split up the pieces across the canvas, I refer to those as hidden whim-whams. So we've got a number of these hidden whim-whams here. So we've got a beehive, and then this particular bird feeder is made up of two pieces that actually fit together but don't fit together in the puzzle this way. Just highlighting the fact that sometimes you can be fooled by thinking that things fit together, but truly they don't, or they might fit together within a certain context but not another. And so pieces are designed with the context in mind that I want. It might be different than the context that you have in mind, and so I'm making you think about how the context might change the appropriate fitness of the piece. Right over here, we've got the ladies here are working on a triptych here by a Vancouver artist named Catherine Robertson. So she's very much a naturalist, I suppose, and she's really concerned about the environment. And so we have 3 different mini puzzles, all featuring different scenes along the BC coast where she lives. And hidden within each of the panel is a little slice of life. And just to highlight that that the environment wouldn't be the same without the animals living within it. We've played a little bit with the negative space. And so we've got the seal, the harbor seal, we've got a heron, and we've got a whale tail. And so you would have to take those pieces out to make that additional puzzle, and all 3 of the puzzles create this beautiful triptych. Another example of a hidden whim-wham. This is from the puzzle called This Is It, another mini puzzle. I worked with 3 different Calgary artists depicting 3 different famous scenes from our Western Rockies. This is a scene depicting the 3 sisters near Calgary. Canmore is a neighboring little town that on your way to Banff. And these three mountain tops here are the 3 sisters. And this is another hidden whim-wham made up of multiple pieces. I didn't have quite enough blue sky to make up the sky of this puzzle. It also happened to be a fairly smoky summer that year. Not a whole lot of blue sky to be found. And so when I ran out of blue pigment in the canvas that I was working with, I decided, well, why don't I just flip the pieces and depict the smoky sky instead? And so that's what we're seeing here. So the colored pieces are actually flipped to make this hidden whim-wham. And so again, the puzzles that I try to design encourage you to think outside the box. And so how many puzzles have you made that actually force you to solve the puzzle by flipping the pieces on its back? So I do like to break rules. As a lifelong rule follower, I was the one who would raise my hand and sit quietly in class and yes ma'am, yes sir. Maybe there's a little bit of that rebel finally emerging, and so I'm trying to playfully bend the rules of puzzle making, and I do find that fun. All right, mastery. Puzzles essentially allow you to keep practicing fitting pieces together, and it's that repetition that is quite, I think it's thrilling and engaging and rewarding. In this particular puzzle, what I've done is, this is a different glory, and what I've done is in the sky, I've tried to use line cuts that are more bubbly, more cloud-like. And then as we move down into the mountains, we've got more blocky, rocky shapes. Then as we move into the tree line, we've got lots of tree-shaped blocks. And eventually down below, that's not in the picture, we've got the lake at the base of the mountain. And so those blocks are more ripple-like. And as you sort the pieces, you can sort those out by color, obviously, but you can also sort them out by shape type. And so through that repetition of the pattern, you've got an additional hint as to how to solve the puzzle. I think what we learn through puzzles can also be adapted to other skill sets. I'm not sure if you've noticed that, but I'm curious if you've seen your skill sets in puzzle making applied to other aspects of your life. I'll pose that out loud. Has anyone seen that aspect? Does anyone want to mention anything that they would care to share with the room?
Patience.
Patience?
Packing your trunk.
Sorry?
Packing your trunk.
Packing your trunk? Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're big campers, and it's pretty. Everyone's amazed at how much we can fit into our vehicle. Yeah.
An obvious one that even beginning puzzlers learn is if you're stuck sitting in one chair, move to a different perspective.
Yes, yeah, shifting perspectives. Yeah, yeah. Oftentimes, if you get stuck, you can move around the table, and then all of a sudden you see things in new light. Even shifting perspective on a daily basis, right? So if you can just step away from the puzzle, you might just take a bathroom break or coffee break, and then all of a sudden you come back to the table and just, yep, I know exactly where that piece goes. Pretty amazing.
When the whole was overwhelming, just doing one piece at a time.
Yeah, not getting overwhelmed by the spread of puzzle pieces. Just focus on a single section and getting that one micro win can often unlock the next one. Anything else? Great, thanks. All right. And finally, the last letter here. There we go, purpose. So this is a bit of our tagline, mantra at Stumpcraft. We are trying to challenge chaos with integrity, generosity, creativity, and wonder. And we do invite you to find your piece of the puzzle. And that can apply at various scales. So as you're working in the puzzle, obviously, the next thing you need to do is to find that one piece. And it's one piece at a time. That might apply personally as well, figuring out what you need to make the puzzle of your life make sense. I think it also applies from a community perspective. It's great to see the community here. This is a bit of a puzzle box, and we kind of shuffle the pieces and see how we all fit with one another. And I do love this quote by William Morris: "Have nothing in your house that you do not know to be useful or believe to be beautiful." I'm hoping that remains the case with Heather. And so I'm endeavoring to remain useful and beautiful in some manner. And for the time being, she's leaving me in the house, so that's probably a good thing. So this puzzle here is actually a puzzle that I designed for Heather. So we've got this little thistle here is representative of Heather. You may recognize the beautiful hairdo she has right here at the top. And so we've captured some of the elements of her life here in Alberta. We've got the wild rose, which is the emblem of Alberta, surrounded by our blue skies. And then we've got a field of green pasture. And then we've got the Holy Grail, the beehive, the bee. as representative of our kind of our family emblem. All right, so hopefully that gives you a little bit of sense of how I approach puzzle design, and that this little chat will encourage you to think about those aspects of care and aspects of using puzzles as a ramp for pursuing a better life for yourself and for those around you, the other puzzle pieces in your life. And I just want to mention that for those of you who haven't yet had a chance to solve your little tin, there's a little secret extra puzzle that's involved in there. So as you're solving the puzzle, there will be an extra piece. If you happen to chat with your fellow puzzlers, you may notice that they have different letters. There are 7 different letters that were distributed randomly across all the tins. If you've managed to find the appropriate person, the appropriate puzzle piece, you'll notice that those letters form the letter of the word friends. And so hopefully you've made lots of friends this weekend. And if you scan the QR code in the program, there's a little riddle. What's the best way to solve puzzles? It's with your friends. And so if you put that keyword into the web link, you'll get another gift from us when you place your next order. I have no idea how much time that took or how much time I have left.
About 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Need a couple questions.
Yeah. So if you've got any questions, I'm all ears.
I admire your use of Canadian artists and particularly First Nations Native artists. And I'm wondering if you're going to keep that up and maybe increase it.
I would love to. The challenge I've found is that it's really hard to draw them into a conversation with someone of my color type. And even I've got Indigenous roots, multiple generations in my past. So the one Indigenous artist who's reached out to me, William Flett, reached out to me. And so whenever that happens, I'm more than happy to engage. I've tried to engage with the local Indigenous artists in Calgary, and it's a slow path. There's a lot of distrust, and it takes time. I've been encouraged to walk with the Indigenous people in our community, and so I will endeavor to keep walking, and whenever that trust is built, I will gladly add more to the collection. Yeah.
I'm curious, do you show pictures of the cup on your website?
At times I do, but for the most part I leave that hidden. If there's certain cuts that are quite complex, like the Queen Bee, there's a 90-piece secret whim-wham in there. It involves a peacock, a large bear, that family crest, and a scroll with the Latin expression esse quam videre, which is to be true rather than to appear to be true. And so for that one, because it's such an extensive hidden whim-wham, I do have a solution that people can ask me for, where I map out where you can find all the pieces. But for the most part, I leave the solution blank to somewhat force you to come to the solution rather than me give it to you.
I was more interested not from a solving perspective as from a shopping perspective.
Yes. The not posting the cut that decision came at a time when there was a lot of copycat puzzles coming from China for the most part, and so I was a bit concerned about the hand-cut design being stolen. I know Jesse and Jessica, for example, have had their cat puzzle mimicked and copied, and I just don't want to make it easy for that to happen. So I've elected to not reveal that.
So you started the company from scratch, I guess, and so what would you say was the hardest obstacle or the weirdest thing to get your head around between like having an idea like I want to make puzzles and like actually having them out there on the market?
This type of thing. I don't love marketing. I love creating and putting things out into the world, setting things in motion. I don't want to be the face of the company, and so that's the challenge. I want the puzzles to speak for themselves, and I want to hide in the workshop and just keep on working. So that's one aspect that I find challenging. Social media is something that I think is a bit of unhealthy for us as a culture. We've got teenagers, 17 and 19, and I've seen the impact that it has had on their lives, where, not to get on a soapbox, but we've hidden or not allowed them to have phones through high school, and it's very challenging for them, but they also see how difficult it is for their friends who are on social media all the time. So they'll be at lunch, and everyone's on their phones, very myopically looking at their phones, and they're trying to engage with their friends, and they can't. And so that's an aspect that I find challenging. In order to reach audiences, you have to do social media these days, and not seeking the limelight. I've got a number of hurdles to get across. There's a massive gap going from having a workshop in your basement where you can work 16 hours a day and expanding to a workshop of 3,000 square feet, employing 7 people. That's a massive jump. I didn't realize the scale jump from a level 3 challenge to a level 10 that I was embarking upon. So that I'd say those were the 2 key things.
Jason.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate your time, everyone. Thanks a lot. It's been a great weekend.